My name is Anaya, and I really would like to just take a few minutes of your time to tell you all a little story about me and my connection with New Mexico Donor Services. And this, again, is the beginning of my story, or shall I say our story. You see, if it wasn't for my wife, I could not stand up here today and speak to you about what happened to me without her notes and without her love and care. I had a heart transplant back in May of 2007. It's been over, my notes said 3 years ago, it's now been 4 years. I had a congenital heart defect called cardiomyopathy. And this is where your heart just quits. I had the heart that I received came from a 30-year-old male and I really don't know anything about this person. I do know that this individual likes sweets because I never did, and now I can't get enough. So those little myths that you guys hear about, do you get other feelings from other people? I'm here to tell you today, absolutely. Absolutely. Back in November of 2006, I was put in the hospital for heart failure. Just one of the many trips that I had. I met with doctors and they told me that it was time for me to start thinking about a heart transplant because mine was about to die, for lack of a better word. And for some reason, I just couldn't grasp this concept. I had always thought, just like you guys, that I was strong, healthy, and I was never sick enough to even get to that extreme. Remember, I was a kid just like you guys. This is really hard for me to sit up here and talk about something like this. You know, during this time, my wife, who was also dealing with her own challenges of raising our daughters, Annalisa, who was in college at that time, Adriana, who was a senior here in high school, and Alexandria, who was at that time in middle school. And if that wasn't hard enough, she had to spend time with her mother, who was dying of cancer. And she had passed away in January 2007. Listen to this date very close, guys. Just days after burying her mother, on February 11th, we went to Tucson, Arizona to start dealing with my health issues. I remember this day so clearly. And I had told her that I was going to give her my heart for Valentine's Day, February 14th. February 14th, Valentine's Day, means something much more to me than just a postcard, just a card. After coming back home and meeting with the doctors, you know, we had to go through the evaluation just to find out if I was even a good candidate to have a heart transplant. And this is kind of funny, it's not funny, but it's kind of weird because I was in my late 40s when all of this started for the transplant. When I was 27, I had not touched a drop of alcohol or anything else illegal. I took it upon myself to start taking care of myself, which is something that I should have done when I was 15 years old. So I'm here to tell you, take care of yourselves now. Don't wait. You don't want to go through what I went through. On April 6th, when we came back from Albuquerque, from Tucson, I ended up back in the hospital again for another chance of heart failure. But I was not alone. Just down the hall, 2 doors over, was my sister-in-law. What a coincidence. I didn't even know this. She needed to have a heart bypass. And she wasn't doing too well either. Can you imagine someone walking down the halls of the hospital and seeing 2 relatives lying in a hospital bed, both of them needing heart surgeries? This was just after they had just buried their mother. Right after the release from the hospital on April 9th, which was Adriana's birthday, we were told to make plans to go back to Tucson to start talking to our doctors about more testing. On April 13th, Friday the 13th, Odette and I get on the plane, my wife. We head for Tucson to visit with our new team of doctors to get the results from the evaluation. We chose to fly since we had a 2-way ticket. I told my wife that just stay there 1 or 2 days and then we would fly right back because I needed to work. The doctors had other ideas for me. They admitted me into the hospital, but first they did give me a choice to stay here and have a heart transplant or go home and die. This is when I really realized that I really was sick. The doctors told me that my heart was only working about 8%. Can you all imagine that? 8% of the capacity of your heart just barely breathing. That means you can't even walk. At this time, it was getting real close for me to be placed on what I call the big blue box, which is a life-saving machine. Needless to say, I did choose to stay. After we were given these options, things started moving so fast, and they already had a room ready for me and tons of medication to start taking. I still was not on the list for a transplant. Not only was I not on the list for a transplant, I wasn't even an organ donor. I never signed up to be one. Do you think that that was fair for me to receive and not to give? I don't either. We were so lost, we didn't know what to do at that point. Remember, I wasn't even on the list yet. Dr. Jack Copeland was my doctor who was the head of surgery for UMC. He came to my room to check on me to see exactly what was going on and how I was doing. I still, again, wasn't on the transplant list. After talking to the doctor and him realizing that I could hardly even open my eyes, he put me on the list immediately. At this time, even now, I'm still pretty scared about this situation. These scenarios that go through your head. Most of all, not knowing anything about organ transplants. Or even knowing if there was a match. But most of all, knowing that somebody in this world would have to die for me in order for me to live. I just couldn't accept that. At all. This is just one way of you all using your treasures, the gift of life. Please be an organ donor. God doesn't need any part of your body. This is why we bury our own bodies here on earth. He just needs your soul back and in very good condition. Your brothers and sisters here on this earth are the ones that need your body. Please give the gift of life. You could save up to 8, other lives. You can help up to 52 and more with just cornea and tissue transplants. As of today, I know just how important it is to be an organ donor, and I beg of you to do this, because you will never know if you will need one someday. Please share this gift with others. This story can go on and on and on. There's so much that I would really love to be able to tell you all today. Thank you all so much.